What I am about to tell you has been deliberately kept out of the standard 15-minute primary care appointment for years, not because your doctor doesn't care about you, but because the current medical system was built around managing decline, not reversing it. And there is a staggering difference between those two things. Everything in this video is strictly for educational purposes. It is not a substitute for personalized medical advice, and you should never modify or stop any prescribed treatment without first speaking directly with your physician. Now, with that clearly established, let me tell you something that changes everything. You have been lied to, not maliciously, not out of cruelty, but systematically, quietly, and at enormous cost to your body. The lie goes like this: you are getting older, your joints are wearing down, your muscles are tired, so the kindest thing you can do for your body is slow down, rest more, and be gentle with yourself. That message is so deeply woven into how we think about aging in this country that most people over 60 have internalized it as biological fact. It is not. It is one of the most physiologically destructive pieces of advice ever given to a healthy, capable senior adult. And I am going to show you exactly why, down to the cellular and fluid dynamic level, in the next 20 minutes. Here is the brutal mechanical truth. When a muscle is not regularly loaded, when it is rested, babied, and kept still in the name of protection, it does not recover. It wastes. The blood vessels that run through it begin to stiffen. The capillaries that deliver oxygen and fuel to its cells begin to narrow and slug. The mitochondria inside each muscle cell, the microscopic engines responsible for generating every unit of biological energy your body produces, begin to reduce in both number and efficiency. Rest does not preserve your muscle. Rest is one of the most accelerated pathways to losing it. And once that cascade begins, the downstream consequences are not subtle, they are catastrophic. What I'm going to give you today is not a gentle stretching routine with cheerful background music. What I'm going to give you is a physics-backed, biomechanically precise, cellular-level protocol that you can execute right now from a standard household chair in your own living room, a protocol built on the same mechanical engineering principles used in clinical rehabilitation science, adapted specifically for the biology of an adult over 60. This is not modified for seniors' exercise. This is precision leverage applied to the exact failure points aging creates in the human body. Before I take you into the protocol, I want to ask something of you right now. Look beneath this video, find the comment section, and leave your exact age along with the word independence in all capital letters. I am tracking responses from viewers in the 60-plus age bracket and building a private companion document, a detailed written protocol that goes even deeper than what I can cover in this video. When it is ready, the people who typed independence and their age will be the first to receive it. Take 15 seconds and do that now. Then come back, because what I'm about to show you next changed the trajectory of two people's lives, and it will change yours. I want to tell you about two men. Both were 68 years old. Both lived alone. Both had been managing the same cluster of age-related conditions: mild hypertension, some knee discomfort, early balance concerns, and both had received broadly similar guidance from their respective primary care physicians. Manage your weight, take your medications, avoid high-impact activity, and rest when you feel fatigued. The first man, I'll call him Raymond, followed that guidance faithfully. He was a disciplined, responsible patient. He took every pill on schedule. He avoided stairs when his knees ached. He sat more. He drove instead of walked. He told himself he was being smart, protecting his joints, not pushing his luck. His doctor reviewed his chart every 3 months, adjusted dosages, and considered his case well managed. Nobody looked at what was happening to Raymond's muscle tissue. Nobody measured his leg strength or his postural stability. Nobody assessed the health of the blood vessel lining running through his lower extremities. On a Tuesday morning in the second year of this routine, Raymond reached for something on a low shelf, felt his legs give, and fell hard onto a tile floor. He fractured his hip. He never went back to his own home. The second man, I'll call him Gerald, received the same initial guidance, but Gerald started asking different questions. He had heard enough about the mechanics of what actually happens to aging muscle and blood vessels to know that rest alone was not a preservation strategy. Gerald began doing something very specific every morning and evening, seated in an ordinary kitchen chair. He was not lifting weights. He was not doing anything that his physician would have called high risk. He was applying precise mechanical stimulation to the specific biological systems that aging was beginning to fail in his body. He was using his chair as a precision instrument. Gerald is 79 today. He walks without a cane. He lives in his own home. He shovels his own walkway in winter. He will tell you, clearly and specifically, that the chair protocol he began 11 years ago is the reason. The difference between Raymond and Gerald was not genetics. It was not luck. It was biological knowledge, applied consistently. And that knowledge starts here. After the age of 60, two convergent processes begin accelerating inside your body in ways that standard medicine almost never addresses together, even though they are mechanically inseparable. The first is sarcopenia, the progressive degenerative loss of skeletal muscle mass and the neuromuscular connections that control it. Research from specialized longevity institutes and large-scale aging cohort studies has documented that adults who do not deliberately counteract this process lose between 3 and 8% of their functional muscle mass every single decade, beginning around 40 die, and that rate accelerates meaningfully after 60. But here is the piece that most people never hear. Sarcopenia is not simply a cosmetic issue of shrinking muscles. It is a fluid dynamics crisis. Think about what a healthy, well-conditioned skeletal muscle actually does from a mechanical standpoint. Every time it contracts, every time it squeezes, it acts as a secondary pump. It compresses the blood vessels running through it, pushing blood forward, supporting the return of oxygen-depleted blood back toward the heart and lungs. Your cardiovascular system was never designed to move blood entirely on its own. It was designed to work in partnership with your skeletal musculature. When that muscle is active, the system operates as a seamless, high-efficiency circulatory collaboration. When that muscle begins to waste, when it sits idle, day after day, resting, the pump stops pumping. The blood that is supposed to be moving through the capillaries of your lower legs, your thighs, your core, begins to pool. Flow slows, pressure drops locally, and the cells that depend on that flow, the muscle cells, the nerve cells, the cells lining those tiny capillaries, begin to starve. This is not a metaphor. This is the literal fluid dynamic consequence of muscular inactivity in an aging body. A healthy, active muscle is a river, constantly moving, carrying oxygen in, carrying metabolic waste out, sustaining a biological ecosystem. A sedentary, sarcopenic muscle is a swamp, stagnant, hypoxic, accumulating the cellular debris that belongs downstream. The term I use with patients to make this viscerally clear is catastrophic cellular starvation. It does not happen all at once. It happens slowly, silently, capillary by capillary, mitochondria by mitochondria, until the day you reach for something on a low shelf and your legs simply are not there. The second convergent process is the decay of the inner lining of your blood vessels, endothelial dysfunction, that single-cell thick lining that I have described in previous videos as the most critically important biological surface in your body begins, after 60, to lose its capacity to respond to the chemical signals that tell it to widen when blood flow is needed. Clinical research tracking endothelial nitric oxide production across aging cohorts has shown a consistent, progressive decline in the vessel lining's ability to generate this natural widening signal with age, and skeletal muscle inactivity directly accelerates that decline. Because here is the link. The physical shear force of blood moving past the endothelial lining is one of the primary triggers for nitric oxide release. When your muscle stops pumping, flow drops. When flow drops, shear force drops. When shear force drops, the lining stops receiving its most powerful biological cue to stay healthy and responsive. The stagnant swamp upstream produces brittle concrete scaffolding downstream, rigid, narrowed, non-responsive vessels that can no longer adjust to the demands of movement. This is the convergence that creates the fall, not the single bad step, not the loose rug. The fall is the clinical presentation of years of accumulated muscular starvation and vascular rigidity reaching a tipping point, expressed in one catastrophic moment of neuromuscular failure. And it is almost entirely preventable with the right mechanical intervention applied at the right biological targets. Those targets are specific, and your chair is the instrument. Here is the protocol. 3 precision movements built on biomechanical engineering principles designed to address the exact failure cascade I just described. You will need only a standard, stable household chair with a firm seat, no equipment, no gym membership, no high-impact load on compromised joints. The first movement targets the single most overlooked peripheral circulation system in the entire lower body, and it is the one most directly responsible for the venous pooling and capillary stagnation that starves the muscles of your lower leg. Sit fully upright in your chair, feet flat on the floor, hands resting lightly on your thighs. From that position, slowly lift your forefoot, your toes and the ball of your foot off the floor while keeping your heel planted firmly down. You are activating the tibialis anterior, the muscle that runs along the front of your shin. Hold the contraction for a count of 3, then lower slowly and deliberately. At the bottom of that movement, before you return to neutral, press the ball of your foot and your toes down into the floor, activating the soleus, the deep calf muscle that sits beneath the gastrocnemius and is one of the most powerful venous return pumps in the human body. That second press is not optional. It is the pump stroke that sends pooled blood back up toward the heart. The research framework supporting this movement comes directly from clinical vascular medicine and post-surgical rehabilitation science, both fields that have long understood that the soleus muscle, when contracting rhythmically, generates enough venous pressure to meaningfully improve peripheral circulation. You are not doing a calf raise. You are manually operating the biological pump that inactivity has allowed to go dormant. 10 slow, deliberate repetitions of this two-part movement, tibialis lift, soleus press, twice daily, is the starting prescription. Each repetition should take a full 6 seconds. The deliberateness is the mechanism. The second movement addresses the single greatest muscular contributor to fall risk in adults over 60, the progressive weakening of the quadriceps, the large muscle group at the front of the thigh responsible for controlling the descent and ascent from any seated or crouched position. When quadriceps strength falls below the threshold required to control your own body weight through a range of motion, every low chair, every car seat, every toilet becomes a potential fall event. The clinical term for what reverses this is eccentric loading, specifically the controlled slow lowering of your body weight against gravity, which research from multiple exercise science and gerontology institutions has shown to be the most effective stimulus for rebuilding quadriceps mass and neuromuscular control in sarcopenic older adults. From a standing position directly in front of your chair, with your hands lightly on the armrests or the seat edge for balance guidance, not support, begin lowering yourself toward the seat with a slow, deliberate count of 5 seconds down. You are not dropping, you are resisting. Every second of that descent, your quadriceps are under eccentric load, doing the specific type of mechanical work that signals the muscle to rebuild. When you make contact with the seat, pause for 1 second, then drive back upward to standing. The upward phase is concentric, also important, but the downward 5-second controlled descent is the biological trigger for rebuilding lost tissue. Begin with 5 repetitions. The goal over weeks is to extend both the count on the descent and the number of repetitions. If you cannot perform the descent without your knees tracking inward or your torso collapsing forward, that is important clinical information. Bring it to your physician and mention the specific term, quadricep eccentric deficit. The third movement builds the internal structural support system that protects your lumbar spine, stabilizes your pelvis, and maintains the postural integrity that all other movement depends on, without placing compressive load on vertebral discs or aggravating spinal stenosis. Seat yourself fully upright in your chair, spine long, feet flat. Take a moderate breath in, and as you exhale, gently draw your lower abdomen inward and upward, as though you are cinching a belt very slightly from the inside. Do not suck in your stomach dramatically. Do not hold your breath. You are activating the deep spinal stabilizers, including the transverse abdominis and the multifidus, the muscles that clinical research on lumbar stability consistently identifies as the primary protectors of spinal integrity in aging adults. Hold that gentle internal brace for a count of 10 while breathing normally. Release fully. Rest for 5 seconds. Repeat 5 times. This isometric core activation does several things simultaneously. It rebuilds the neuromuscular pathway to deep stabilizers that prolonged sitting tends to switch off. It reduces the mechanical shear on your lumbar discs during movement, and it begins to restore the coordinated core to lower limb activation pattern that your nervous system depends on to catch you when balance is challenged. This is not an abdominal exercise. It is a structural engineering intervention in the most literal sense. These 3 movements, practiced twice daily in under 15 minutes total, applied consistently for a minimum of 6 to 8 weeks, are not a cure for anything. They are a precise, targeted, evidence-informed stimulus to the exact biological systems that age and inactivity have been quietly dismantling. The Tibialis Soleus pump restores peripheral circulation. The Eccentric sit-to-stand rebuilds the quadriceps architecture that prevents falls. The isometric core brace secures the spinal scaffolding that holds everything upright. Together, they address the convergent failure cascade of sarcopenia and endothelial dysfunction at the mechanical root, not at the symptomatic surface. Your body is not done. The research on skeletal muscle adaptability in older adults is one of the most consistently hopeful areas in all of gerontological science. Studies tracking resistance and neuromuscular training in adults in their 70s, 80s, and even 90s have documented measurable gains in both muscle mass and neuromuscular function. The biology does not close. The window does not shut, but it requires the right signal applied with precision to reopen. Now, before I let you go, I need to make a direct request, and I mean this with the full weight of everything we just covered together. If what you heard today gave you a more complete mechanical picture of what is actually happening inside your muscles and your blood vessels, if it made you think of someone you know who is wresting their way toward a fall they do not see coming, please subscribe to this channel right now and turn on the bell notification immediately. What I produce here is not content. It is clinical translation. It is the conversation that the 15-minute appointment does not have time for, delivered without commercial compromise, based on documented biological mechanisms. When you subscribe with notifications on, you take direct control of what health information reaches you, instead of surrendering that to an algorithm optimized for advertising revenue, not your longevity. This is your independence. Protect it. In the weeks ahead, we are going to build on everything in this video. We are going to talk about the specific nutritional building blocks your muscle cells require to respond to this mechanical stimulus, because exercise without the right raw materials is a signal without a receiver. We are going to go deep into the relationship between sleep architecture and muscular repair in adults over 60, and why the standard advice about sleep for seniors may be actively interfering with your recovery biology. And we are going to address the one blood marker that most primary care panels completely omit. A marker that has been shown in longitudinal studies to predict the pace of sarcopenic progression with striking accuracy. You sat down in a chair today. By the end of this video, that chair became something different. It became a precision instrument. It became a daily intervention in your own cellular biology. It became the place where you chose to reverse a cascade rather than ride it. That choice is yours every single morning, in your own living room, without a prescription and without a gym membership. The biology supports you. The research supports you. And now, so does the protocol. I'm Dr. David Thompson. I'll see you in the next video.